We brought things up with cricket on this edition of the SportsMax Zone, looking back at what the shortest format of the game offered up on the international scene in 2024. Now, our cricket analyst, Nikhil Uttamchandani, has assembled an 11 he deems the creme de la creme while representing their countries over the last 12 months. Now, this team comprises Australians Travis Head, Marcus Stoinis and Adam Zampa, India's Sanju Samson, Surya Kumar Yadav, Hardik Pandya and Arshdeep Singh, Afghanistan's Rashid Khan and Naveen ul Haq, and the lone West Indian, yes, believe it or not, Shai Hope. Yeah, here's the big surprise though. Nikhil is here with us today in studio. He didn't make it for Christmas, so he decided he would join us for the new year. We're the only reason he is here. Nikhil, why are you here in Jamaica at this time? It's good to have you, by the way.
Yeah, thanks a lot for having me, Ricardo. I think it speaks to the success of SportsMax that Ricardo, on his personal budget, decided it's the last show of the year. We had to make it special, and he flew me in personally for this moment. And it's a big moment for me as well, because I've never met Lance Whitaker in person. He's someone that I look up to massively, and I grew up watching him on TV, and here I am, last day of the year.
Yeah, you know I had to make it happen. Let's talk some cricket, though, because we look at your 11. The first thing I want to get an understanding of is what went into the selection of this 11. I mean, what were you looking for in terms of the combinations, the setup, the skill sets?
Yeah, I think for me, obviously, it was a very tough thing. You're managing statistics, which obviously will dictate a big piece of the selection method. But also, I tried to pick out some of the more impactful players in 2024. It was tough because it's a World Cup year, and there's been so much cricket that there's been a lot of workload management as to why someone like Jasprit Bumrah wouldn't be in my team. I know we'll get to that. So it was a challenging process for me, but it was cool to have. I think the coolest part about it was to see the amount of different perspectives people had on which players they would include or not.
Yeah. And what was the toughest aspect of putting this 11 together?
I think managing the statistics with impact. It's always tough to think back to how much T20 cricket we had this year and think about who was impactful and look past the stats a bit. That was probably the toughest.
All right, let's have a look at the team a lot closer then, shall we? Now, the first thing that jumped out at me, and I want to look at the spin bowling department. That's where I want to start, actually, because I realize here that you have gone with Rashid Khan and you have gone with Adam Zampa.
Right.
Explain those two selections, and I want to get from you as well, who were the others in contention that you decided, you know what, let's not go with those, let's go with these?
I'll start by saying Akil Hussain was close because he's the #1 player in the world, bowler in the world at the moment. But 23 wickets in 20 games, as good as he's been, I thought I couldn't leave out these two. Rashid Khan, 31 wickets at 9.6 this year. That is unprecedented to average less than 10, and his economy is less than 6 and over as well. And then I think Zampa, the thing that jumped out to me, his wickets came at 17, and the conditions he plays in are not the most spin-friendly or spin-conducive. He did well in the Caribbean during the World Cup. He edged Hasaranga. It was the two of them I was going at.
Yeah, because that's exactly where I was going to go, because Hasaranga is the one that jumped out at me. 38 wickets in 20 matches, averaging 14.28. That's better than Zampa's. And this is where the statistics come in now. But you also have him an economy rate of 7.22, which is also better than Zampa's. His strike rate is 12.05, which is better than Zampa's. And of course, those who watch that West Indies-Sri Lanka series in Sri Lanka would remember how much he destroyed the West Indies batting attack. So that was definitely one that jumped out at me. And I thought, well, maybe I would have gone with Hasaranga over Zampa.
You'll see why when I'm at home, I always have to come prepared. I know the man is just trying to get me to stumble. But the reason I went Zampa over Hasaranga was the simple fact that 14 of Hasaranga's 18 games this year were at home. So I figured the Sri Lankan conditions would favour him a lot more.
The issue of Akil Hussain, you just said he was close, so we accept that, and we know he must have been close because he's in most people's teams as the #1 bowler in the world at the moment based on the ICC rankings. But wouldn't the fact that he does so much of his bowling in the power play factor in you placing him and as for impact?
The thing is, Lance, is that I didn't know who to leave out because I thought, first of all, Jasprit Bumrah is not in the team, which is a massive shock to people. But I thought Naveen, the year he's had, with his power play bowling as well, but also bowling at the back end, I wanted to have that right mix of pace and seam, so I went with him and Arshdeep Singh. And I just found it really tough to leave out one of the wrist spinners. But when I picked my T20 team, which is all T20s, Hossain obviously has the most of anybody this year. I think he's easily, comfortably one of the first names in that team, the franchise team.
Yeah, before you get into the other aspects of the team that you selected, you are a coach now picking your team. So which coach are you?
In terms of?
In the international scene, which coach do you like most? So who is the coach that made these selections? Darren Sammy?
Maybe a bit of Brendan McCullum, like that bravery, a bit of basketball, you know. But Sammy also, you know, the way that he's rallied his troops. I think what I like about him, observing him up close, has been the ability to motivate men. Yes. You see him very animated, and when I talk to some of the players, they are quite motivated by him off the field. Yeah.
The World Cup. How much of that did you take into consideration in selecting this team? And I'm going somewhere with this, so I'll allow you to answer that first.
Yeah, I know exactly where you're going. It was obviously a big part, and that's why I think the most of one country in terms of the players in the 11 is from India, because they won the World Cup. Naturally, we would think they're the best team in the world, but it definitely had a big part. I think I found it tough because I still want to credit longevity and credit guys who have played 25 T20Is and stuff this year, which is why I left out those that may have just played the World Cup, because I think it's harder to play more games and still perform at that level.
Okay. All right. So let's talk about some of those men who did extremely well at the World Cup. Faruqi, the Afghan spinner, he topped the wicket-taking charts with 17. He's not in your side. One of the first things that jumped out at me was that no South African was in your 11 and they got to the World Cup final. So De Kock, who was brilliant at the World Cup, doesn't get into your team. Nortje, who was brilliant at the World Cup, doesn't get into your team either, which is why I started with that question in terms of how much the World Cup performances impacted your final selection. Personally, for me, I would go with more of those players who dominated on the biggest stage and then sort of fill the team out with the others around them. I think you've kind of gone the other way.
So who are you leaving out is my question, because my two seamers in Naveen and Arshdeep had very good World Cups.
Yes.
And also have had very good years. So who are you leaving out?
I would go with Nortje, for example, or even Bumrah, for example, over Naveen, just because I think they offer something different. And especially with Nortje and his pace, his height.
But, you know, I wasn't picking this team to go on and play on the field, you know.
Why were you picking it?
No, I'm picking the best 11 that I think. I'm not picking to go and play any opposition or any conditions based. But I hear your point. I just look at Naveen, 32 wickets in 19 games at 15, right?
Yeah.
18 of the wickets in the power play.
Yes.
At 5 runs and over.
Yeah.
Who goes at 5 and over in the power play?
So when I saw your team as well, one of the things I thought, so someone like Naveen, maybe you're also Naveen, Marcus Stoinis, I'm thinking, okay, so he's looking for more the all-rounders type. I mean, the players who can produce a little with bat and can produce with ball as well. Was that kind of what you were thinking, putting this together?
Well, I thought every team should have a couple of all-rounders, which is why I went for Hardik and Stoinis. I think the years that they've both had with bat and ball is hard to ignore. I wanted to have the two seamers because I know both of them could both seam, and I thought I had to have the couple of spin options as well. It's not, listen, it's a tough thing, you know. There's so many players. Boomer didn't even make the team.
No, we agree with you. And to be honest with
that's
you,
why you did it, and we're pressing you.
Yeah, because we respect your judgment. But you are right. It's not an easy team to pick. So when do we get to the Shai Hope discussion?
I was just about to say, I'm surprised nobody's raised that yet.
Well, we have now.
Saving the best for last.
We have now.
Right, let me see what I have in my notes. Average 35. Strike rate was 160 plus. I think what stood out to me was the versatility Shai Hope showed in 2024. People will say 82 not out against USA has boosted that average, but I also look at 54 off 24 balls against England. The way that he saved the West Indies a lot in 2024, but also was able to play the aggressive role. I think his versatility deserved a place in my team.
Yeah, one of the reasons why we respect your analysis, Nikhil, is that you have a very global outlook on cricket. And while you're a West Indian, even in this team that you've named here or you've picked here, you haven't really shown a West Indies bias, because a lot of West Indians feel that Nicholas Pooran is the number one T20 batter in the world. Akil Hussain is obviously one of the best bowlers in the world, and he's not in your team. So the Shai Hope discussion is pertinent here, because he is not a regular in the West Indies T20 setup, but you, as you have just explained, have found reasons why you think he's a solid man for this All-Star 11.
Would Roston Chase have made your 11?
By the way, I'm not even going into the gimmicks, right? I actually agree with your Shai Hope selection.
Right.
Yes.
I think it's probably the best selection you have in this team. And I tell you why. Because I think that selection shows foresight. It's like when Brian Lara saw Fidel Edwards in the nets and decided you're going to play the next test match. That's how I feel about Shai Hope. And we've spoken about this a number of times this year, that I feel currently in the T20 game, he is highly underrated. I think he should be a regular in the West Indies T20 setup, and it doesn't seem as if he is the first choice. And when you look at his numbers as well, to me, I think it's a fantastic selection to have him in there. I have to ask, though, someone like Babar Azam, how close was he? Because he had a stellar year. As far as the test-playing nations are concerned, the most runs in T20 international cricket, averaging over 30, played over 20 games.
Not very close.
Wow.
The strike rate for me with Babar, less than 130. I think we live in a world now where openers... Travis Head struck at 190 this year. Yeah. I think the man that was close is probably Gurbaz. Sanju Samson, I think I cheated a little bit because he opens the batting as well. I have him at 3. But when I think about the multitude of openers around the world, I don't think Babar, as much runs as he wasn't in the reckoning.
Okay, fair enough.
The Pakistan, I know we have a Pakistan viewership. I know the Karachi Tape Ball League is on SportsMax. They're not going to be very happy, but yeah, it's a tough thing, but I enjoyed it thoroughly.
Yeah.
By the way, I didn't realize tape ball was so popular outside of Barbados.
True, we play a lot of tape ball cricket, but Nahid Rana, for example, started in tape ball, so you know, maybe I'll pick up the tape ball and then use that height.
Yeah, I guess you'll be pretty good at something outside of commentary.
Well, first of all, thank you for saying I'm good at commentary. That's the first time I've heard that compliment from Ricardo.
That's not true.
And you even said I made a good selection with Shai Hope. It really must be the end of the year, folks, because
you did.
He's complimenting people.
I'm actually surprised that you didn't have Roston Chase in your team.
Boy, it was a tough one, but I just...
It was tough, wasn't it? He must have been pretty close.
He had a very underrated year, I think.
I think I just heard Ricardo say he is finished with the gimmicks. and he's gone right back there.
No, but he's serious, you know, Lance.
No, but Lance, you really think is...
Roston Chase was not far away from his 11.
I mean, look at the guy's numbers. Economy, wickets, I think 21 wickets this year, and then the amount of times, think about the South Africa game at the World Cup, he almost won it for the West Indies. The amount of times he's come in and helped them, Bangladesh the other day, St. Vincent. He's just been the savior.
Well, Ricardo was on your side with Shai Hope, but I don't think he is with Chase.
Ricardo and Roston Chase have a...
He made Chase out of the studio.
I think it's a very good time for us to take a break. This conversation has gone the wrong way. Downhill.
I want to say, Ricardo, as it's the end of 2024, a special thank you to you and Lance and the SportsMax family. I think it's been a fantastic year for me, but nothing would be possible without SportsMax. So I really appreciate you guys, and thanks to the viewers as well, who are never afraid to leave their opinion in the comments. I'd be reading, so keep it up, guys. Keep it up.
And I'm sure you especially love the placards and the selfie taking and all of that.
You said you had to go that break, right? There's a lot of other sports to discuss.
Yes. Do you enjoy that?
I'm grateful for everybody's support.
Traveling around the Caribbean and just getting all this love and support, hugs pictures and...
No, that's amazing. Honestly, to be fair, I go to different islands and the amount of people that say they see me on SportsMax is like... I remember when Ricardo gave me my first opportunity 2-3 years ago, and to think, you know, this is where we've come now. I really am grateful from the bottom of my heart.
Yeah,
right.
You've earned it though, so
I appreciate
it. Yeah, you are fantastic, man. By
Another
the way,
compliment. What is going on today?
Anyhow, enjoy Jamaica and the streets, freedom
Land of
and
wood
otherwise.
and water.
Let's go to a break.